In a world where everyone seems overwhelmed, the deeper question is not what's happening around us, but what's happening inside us. Stress has become so normal that most people don't even recognize how tightly wound they are. Social pressures, expectations, nonstop information, and the fear of judgment combine into a silent mental storm. We look around and assume others are handling life better, when in reality, most people are quietly cracking under the same weight. Stress is no longer just an emotion. It has become a shared human experience, shaping how we think, speak, react, and understand one another. Modern life has turned into a psychological beauty contest, where we don't just try to be our best. We try to guess what everyone else expects from us. We adapt our behavior, weaken our voice, and shrink our authenticity because we fear rejection from our own community. This creates a collective illusion. Silence begins to look like agreement, and disagreement begins to look like betrayal. The loudest, most extreme voices dominate conversations, while the majority sit quietly in the middle, exhausted, confused, and longing for peace. Many people don't realize how heavily social media influences this tension. A tiny fraction of extreme voices shape most of the online world, creating the illusion that society is divided beyond repair. But research shows the opposite. Most people actually agree on the majority of things that matter. We all want safety, stability, purpose, connection, and a hopeful future. Yet fear of public backlash keeps people from speaking honestly. This self-silencing feeds anxiety, because hiding who we are is emotionally expensive. History shows that small acts of truth can spark massive change. In the Velvet Revolution, a single play, crafted subtly, fearlessly, and humorously, helped people recognize the absurdity of oppression. No violence, no weapons, only authenticity awakening courage. When people saw others laugh, question, and reclaim their voice, they remembered their own power. Today, the world needs that same quiet bravery, the willingness to be honest, compassionate, and real, even when the atmosphere feels hostile. Experts warned during the pandemic that we wouldn't understand its psychological impact for years. And now, we are starting to see the long tail. Prolonged fear, uncertainty, isolation, and constant threat activated the brain's alarm system in ways it was never meant to sustain. Many people are stuck with a revving engine inside them, always alert, always bracing, always tired. Chronic stress has reshaped our nervous systems, making daily life feel heavier and more difficult than before. We also underestimated the grief woven into those years. Whether it was missing milestones, losing routines, or feeling disconnected from others, people carried more emotional weight than they were able to express. For an adult, a missed event might seem insignificant, but for a young person, those moments represented dreams they had held for years. When grief is minimized or ignored, it doesn't disappear. It buries itself and resurfaces later in the form of anxiety, tension, or emotional exhaustion. Researchers now estimate that more than 80% of adults are living in a state of chronic stress without realizing it. When the amygdala is constantly activated, the brain's rational centers can't function properly. People lose patience quickly, overreact to small triggers, isolate themselves, or feel mentally foggy. Decisions become harder. Conversations feel heavier. Motivation declines. This isn't weakness, it's physiology. The body cannot heal itself from chronic stress unless we intentionally help it reset and regulate. Much of our anxiety comes not from real events but from anticipated fear. Our minds create frightening scenarios, trying desperately to gain control in an uncontrollable world. When life feels uncertain, humans instinctively search for patterns, even in meaningless places. This compensatory control drives people to create stories, conspiracy theories, and exaggerated fears, because a frightening explanation still feels more manageable than randomness. The desire for certainty often outweighs the desire for truth. Today's world gives us the illusion of control, while constantly reminding us how little control we truly have. We can predict tomorrow's weather, track global news instantly, and communicate instantly with anyone across the world. But we cannot stop tragedy, prevent randomness, or completely secure our futures. This mismatch between short-term predictability and long-term chaos is emotionally disorienting. It blurs the boundary between what we can control and what we must release. This blurred line creates a breeding ground for anxiety. People feel responsible for fixing things far beyond their influence. They feel guilty for not knowing the future, frustrated that their efforts don't guarantee safety, and ashamed of their fear. But anxiety often begins not with the world, but with separation from our inner sense of capability. The moment we think, "What if I can't handle this?" the alarm in the body intensifies and panic takes over. For many, anxiety becomes a cycle of avoidance. Instead of addressing fears, they freeze, complain, or catastrophize. This disconnects them from the only real source of control they have, their actions and their mindset. When we spiral into what-ifs, we distance ourselves from our own strength. The key is not to eliminate fear. It is to return to ourselves in the moment, breathe, and remind our body that we are capable of facing challenge, even when it feels uncertain. One of the most powerful truths is that anxiety is separation anxiety, not from others, but from ourselves. When we imagine future disasters, we forget our own ability to cope, adapt, and recover. We forget the countless challenges we have already survived. Reconnecting with our inner stability allows us to face uncertainty with clarity. Instead of asking what will happen, we can ask, who will I be when it happens? That shift brings the mind back into the present. Anxiety also grows when we avoid taking action. Many people worry endlessly about losing their job, financial instability, or future changes, yet they delay updating their resume, learning new skills, or preparing for the future. Avoidance reinforces panic, making the threat feel bigger. Action, even small action, restores confidence. When you move toward the fear instead of running from it, your nervous system begins to calm because you are proving to yourself that you can handle difficulty. Parents often unknowingly reinforce anxiety in children by overprotecting them. When a child is frightened and a parent removes every challenge, the message becomes, "You can't handle hard things." This signals weakness instead of resilience. True support means being present while encouraging children to face discomfort. It teaches them that fear is survivable and that they can navigate difficult emotions without collapsing. Strength grows not from being shielded, but from being supported through struggle. Real safety is not the absence of hardship. It is a belief that we will be okay no matter what happens. Life will deliver challenges bigger than anything we've ever faced, emotionally, financially, relationally. But resilience is built by understanding that even when the world feels unbearable, we have the capacity to adapt, learn, and survive. "I will be okay no matter what happens" is not just a sentence. It is a mindset that rewires anxiety into confidence. Uncertainty is unavoidable, but suffering is not. When we learn to sit with discomfort, our emotional tolerance increases. When we stop fighting reality, we become more flexible. We stop breaking under pressure and begin bending with life instead. We learn that fear doesn't have to dictate our behavior, that challenges don't have to destroy us, that uncertainty doesn't have to control us. Resilience grows in the space where fear meets courage. Deep emotional work teaches us that courage is not loud or dramatic. Sometimes courage looks like sitting quietly with your fear until it softens. Sometimes it looks like telling the truth gently. Sometimes it's simply waking up and trying again. And sometimes courage is choosing to believe that even if life gets harder than ever before, you still have the ability to rise. You can endure, rebuild, and grow, even when the world feels unsteady. The most powerful transformations begin when we stop pretending we are fine and start acknowledging what hurts. When we give ourselves compassion instead of judgment, awareness instead of avoidance, and action instead of panic. Healing begins when we reconnect with ourselves, our breath, our body, our present moment. When we trust our own capacity, the alarm inside begins to quiet, not because life becomes easier, but because we finally believe we can handle it. Stress, anxiety, uncertainty, these are universal experiences, not personal failures. Every person you meet is carrying something heavy. Every mind is fighting its own battles. But every human also has a capacity to overcome more than they ever imagined. The world may not become less chaotic, but we can become stronger, calmer, and more grounded. By reclaiming our voice, our clarity, and our resilience, we become participants in our own healing, not prisoners of our fear.